Yeah, this is going to be some powerful information because this is the stuff that I do with my one-on-one clients, with my groups, everything. And it's something that is, we've all heard lots of different things, but we don't recognize how powerful this really is. And what happens is when we start to expand, um, by the way, if this is the first time you're hearing me, my name is Jeff Aldon. I'm a alchemist transformational coach, master coach, like been doing it over 3 decades. And I work with 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. And so I'm glad you're here. This is one of the topics it ends up being a big part of all of our lives, and it becomes one of those blind spots that a lot of people, they've heard it. We've all heard the crab story, which is if you want to figure out how to keep a crab, you put one crab in a bucket, it's going to climb out. If you want to learn how to keep it, then what you do is you put two crabs in there, and when you try to climb out, the second crab will grab the first one. And there's so much being said in that, because your environment can be literally stronger than your willpower. So what does that mean? It means that you have a resonance with your environment. Now, looking at your environment can be your internal environment that you have from your collective conditioning as a child, from the beliefs, from the decisions, from all the things that you created when you were a child. So you have your internal environment. Then you have your immediate environment, which is your significant other, your children, your brothers, your sisters, your family. Then you have your cultural, your community that's bigger around you as well, your church community, your different organizations that you belong to, your friends. All of these are part of your alignment and the vibration that you send out. You have attracted all these people in your life. Well, obviously your family. Well, you did that too on a whole other level, but that's more than this conversation is going to include. But it's understanding that you are in harmony, vibrational harmony with these people. And what we do is we get by to get along, which means there's so many things decisions that we have taken on that has allowed us to be in resonance with the petite people that are in our environment. Well, so if we want to start stepping out into more expanded areas of our lives, whatever that means, financially, business wise, spiritually, physically, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what domain of life we're referring to. But if you want to expand and if you want to change something within your life, then the harmony, the resonance that you have with your environment is going to be impacted. And what happens when let's talk about the internal one part of it as well, because this is really, really important. And before I get into that, I want to share this with you. Is like we are all homeostasis, which means we want to balance out, right? Like if I have this bottle of water and I just took it out of the fridge and I leave it here long enough, it's going to become room temperature. If I have boiling water and I put into it, it's going to cool down to room temperature. Nature is all about balancing, right? So if I am in an environment that has a certain philosophy, if I want to expand and move out of that environment, what's going to happen is I'm going to get in touch with the entanglement that I have with that environment. And the one that's going to be most powerful is the one with the strongest vibration, right? So if I'm in an environment, say, wanting to change my diet, let's just use that one. Say I want to change my diet and I am excited about this. I want to change my diet. I want to get in shape. I want to do certain things to step into this new arena of what it is that I want to create. And I see some things within myself that I just want to make a difference. I want to do something different. And my environment is not on board, right? It doesn't mean whatever more than what you make it mean, but let's just say that they have their own story, their own programs, their own vibration of what they want to create in their life. And if they're not committed to the same path that I'm committed to, the moment I start wanting to change my diet and stuff like that, you're going to get the resistance of changing into a new pattern, right? So think about this. So if you eat hamburgers and French fries, and I eat hamburgers and French fries occasionally, and you want to start eating vegan, let's just use that. Okay. All of a sudden what you buy has to change. The amount that you spend on it has to change. Where you get it changes. The recipe changes. Like a lot of different things start changing out of this patterns that have been developed where you've created this comfortableness in patterns in what you create. So let's say that you have a partner that's doing the cooking. Well, as soon as you start changing this, it's impacting them as well. And if they're not aligned with it or not supportive of it, or they look at it as a frustration or whatever, right? Now you're going to get in touch with how you feel about this relationship, right? Like all of a sudden, that we can take on that person's emotions. And when we do that, we're starting to see the entanglement that we had with this particular pattern, right? And if they're just giving us attitude or like, why are you doing this? This is so difficult. I had my routines and now you're disrupting everything. And it's like, man, this is such a pain. This is like, I get this a lot. So I'll share this. I've been watching UPW, which is Unleash the Power Within's Tony's event, which is I went to a long time ago, radically changed my life. I've been in one of his groups and watching the struggles that people are having around this. Is that when people are when they come together, usually they are at a certain vibration and they have certain things within them that allow for them to come together. And this is what creates chemistry, right? The chemistry is the results of the hormones that are released as a result of the vibration that's going on inside, based on the programming, based on the wounds, based on everything else that's going on inside of us. That's what determines the chemicals that are released and makes us feel like this is chemistry, right? If we're talking about a significant other, right? And I'm watching in Tony's group how many people are getting absolute resistance from their environment because subconsciously, our subconscious recognizes that there's change that's going to be happening. And if it will go into protect mode, right? Like the primal part of our brain, which is our limbic brain, will go into survival mode and our body will literally take over. And it's not that they don't love us. It's not that they don't care. It's just that their body's going, holy crap, something's going to change. And I can't tell you how many trainings I've been in and done where people coming into it were absolutely committed, wanted to do everything they could to get there. And something happens in their life where they're not able to get to that event, right? Because your subconscious and your unconscious is part of superconscious, right? And so it starts when you start getting into the fact of how much you are source of your life, it's mind-boggling, right? So think about, you start doing these changes and it starts impacting the dynamics of your relationship. Well, the one that is most committed is going to be the one that's winning. We don't get what we want, we get what we are committed to, right? And it's easy to say I am committed. Okay, what does that mean, right? And as soon as we start moving towards what it is that we are committed to, we start recognizing all of the chains that what we have been committed to that has kept us from achieving the ultimate desire, right? Like we don't understand, we don't recognize or experience the chains that we have connected to us that keep us playing small until we start moving, right? It's when we start moving is when we start recognizing, oh dang, I've got these things that are holding me back. So understand your environment is going to not, it's going to have its own dynamics when you start wanting to expand into whatever area that it is. Religion, right? Let's just use religion. Like if you had religious beliefs that brought the two of you together and you start going down this road and all of a sudden you start doing some research or whatever, like my religious beliefs have changed radically over my lifetime. And I'm not even going to say religious beliefs, I want to say spiritual beliefs, radically over my lifetime. And there's been many times where I've had to let go of the environment in order for me to expand and move and grow and move on. And so that's what I'm saying is when you start reaching that threshold of what the willingness or the acceptance of the environment is at, this is going to determine who's most committed. And so you're going to be placed in that position of seeing a lot of people are looking things through duality. It's like, well, I just can't have this person in my life because they don't agree with me and they're giving me resistance and all that stuff. Okay, that's one strategy. I would encourage you to move beyond that in being able to hold grace, being able to understand that everybody's on their own journey. And I've folks, everything I'm telling you, my friend, I have done this, right? Like I've had friends as I expanded, as I grew and started looking at some of the things that I believed and really started moving from secondhand beliefs into firsthand beliefs, it challenged some of the friendships that I had. And I was so focused on what it is that I was experiencing and growing into that I was just like, okay, cool, peace out. You be good, you be you, and I be me, and have a great life. And, I wish you the best. Right. And because I was so committed is a good word. I was so committed in discovering what it was that was happening to me. And just like when I got off bipolar meds, okay, when I got off bipolar meds, I did not tell anybody that I was doing it. The reason I didn't do it is because the reason I didn't tell anybody is I didn't want anybody putting a seed inside of me that is getting me to convince me of doing something different, because everybody has a narrative of once you're on bipolar meds you can't get off bipolar meds, and one of the side effects of bipolar meds is that you're going to want to get off the medication. I mean, think about that one. And so everybody's conditioning is this is an impossibility, and so they have this narrative of like, holy crap, he's getting off his bipolar meds, he's going to go crazy, he's going to do all this stuff. But I had other things in mind and I had other things committed, and I've done some work that allowed me to step into that place. And so, again, what's more important to you when you start expanding is, are you going to let your environment run what not run, but is the threshold of in your environment going to hold you back from stepping into a more expanded version of who you are? Right. And this is some of the things that like, I'll just share with everybody. I don't know if this will surprise you or not. Well, actually, some of it will. Like most speakers, most influencers, most trainers are very introverts. A lot of people think they're extroverts. I am a major, major, major introvert. I can show up big time extrovert, but the distinction of what determines an introvert and an extrovert is just what charges you, right? Like I can be in a crowd. It depends on what type of crowd it is. But when I recharge, it's when I'm alone. It's when I'm in solitude. It's when I'm reading a book. It's when I'm watching a movie. It's whatever, being by myself or doing my creation for my next courses and stuff like that. That's how I recharge my batteries. Um, and so when you start discovering new things about who you are, and say someone has a fear of abandonment, right? Hello, I've have a big one, still work at it every once in a while, it pops its head and hey, I'm still here. It's like, oh, there you are. Haven't seen you in a while. That when somebody starts changing, our subconscious is going, oh no, they're changing. And boom, it can fire that fear of abandonment within inside of us. And then we got to start changing our strategy. Now we start accessing different parts of who we are, like our shadow, right? Highly recommend you to go look up The Shadow Effect. Great movie by Debbie Ford. Amazing, amazing movie, because it's a big part of what runs us, right? And if we are not aware of these things, then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be projecting things onto people that are going to be holding them back. And see, alignment is all about vibrational alignment, like having, it's not having similar things, although that is really important, but being aligned in what you truly value in the different domains of your life. And if your different domains in life, you have one that is more predominant than another one, just being sure that you're aligned in that, because it's not relationships don't break down because of sex and money. They just don't. And it's because of communication, and what we base our communication on is really value. So if I don't know what I really value in the context of career, and I take on a business partner, and I've done this many times, and they've dissolved because once you start changing the dynamics of the relationship and start stepping in the different domains, it's going to come up. The stuff's going to come up that you're going to get to look at. And if you're not aware of your unconscious rules that you have around things, it's going to be a journey, a very enlightening journey. And usually the enlightenment comes through the process of the initiation that you experience, because it's like, oh, this is not much fun. This is not much fun, right? So what's important is you understanding that what is it that you're really committed to? Right? Like, what is it you really are committed to? We don't get what we want. We get what we are committed to. And when we are committed to something, we are willing to go through whatever it takes in order to make what we are committed to happen. Right. And so many of us that have grown up in environments where we experience trauma or humiliation or separation or abandonment or what's the word I'm thinking of that's really, really indifference. Like indifference is a massive, massive wound with with children, it's just like I don't care if you're here or not, right? Like just having this indifference attitude about a child is horrific. It's horrific. And so if we've experienced these, when we go into a relationship, whatever the relationship is, friend, business, intimate, whatever relationship it is, if the dynamics of that relationship start changing, those wounds are going to come up and it's going to animate. We're going to find out that there's going to be charge behind that. And this is when our body's going to take over. And when our body takes over, we're going to do everything we can to grasp and hold on to it. Just like when we go to a grocery store hungry, our body is in survival and we make very inappropriate choices. I still, to this day, in fact, I did it not too long ago. I went in the grocery store and I usually set it up so when I go to a grocery store, I'm rested, I've just eaten, or I'm not hungry. And I did it the other day. I went in there and I was a little bit hungry. My schedule got off, and I went in and I was like, "Oh, there it is, there it is." Right? We're making choices out of desperation. We're making choices out of survival. So this is how we can create some of our environment sometimes. Like if we've been out in the desert for a while, and I've been out in the desert, and what I mean this metaphorically, obviously, we can want to have friendships like when I got off bipolar meds, it was a long desert. I was out in the desert for metaphorically for probably 4 or 5 months because I had to go through and getting it out of my system and all that stuff. I had to be in this place where I was absolutely 100% like, boom, I'm through this season of my life. And when I did that, I went back to the environment that I was at that I had walked away from. Completely different environment because I was a completely different person, right? And understand as your inner world expands and you start letting go of these constructs and these complexities and these different aspects of who we are that creates our perception. As we start letting go of these, we start perceiving things differently, right? And this is the dance of hanging on and letting go. Are we accessing our history? Are we accessing what we can create? And are we trusting our ability to really choose from a place of this is in alignment with me? This is my knowingness. When we are in our knowing, and please understand, I work at this every single day. I do not have this down. I do not want to be put on a pedestal. Understand, I work at this every single day. And being able to look at what is my knowing. When I'm in my knowing, when I'm in my power, when I'm in my agency, there's no questions, right? But again, if I'm in an environment that has trained me to question everything that is about me, like when I was growing up, it was just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Because we had these unwanted guests of drug addiction and alcoholism, which is pretty intense. It was pretty crazy. So having that, I learned to create some amazing survival skills. Well, that's what I attracted in my life, and out of that, as that began to heal, the dynamics of my relationships begin to change as well, right? Because there's also trauma bonding, right? Like trauma bonding is people that have certain wounds and they come together. To me, it's like our higher selves come together, which gives us the opportunity for the both of us to heal and move through it. And one person doesn't want to, and the other one does, or it's a different timing, or it's a different way, or the journey brings up different aspects. We've got to be willing to let the journey take care of the journey and being patient and graceful with who we are, right? Because so many of us are in situations that we don't want to be in, meaning we're like in this feeling, this uncomfortableness, and it's like, I don't want to be here and I want to do anything I can to get out of this. That's the place that you get to stay with and giving and learning how to love it, because so many of us have reached outside of ourselves in different parts of our lives, wanting something outside of ourselves to make our insides feel better. And this is where some of the relationships have been created. I've created business partnerships out of this that have absolutely got my ass, I use that word very intentionally, got my ass kicked emotionally, mentally, financially, spiritually, like holy crap, got obliterated, right? But it was part of the journey that I needed to go down in order for me to recognize that it has to come from within me. If I am looking outside of myself and giving somebody the responsibility to make me feel better, to make me feel loved or whatever, if I'm giving that to somebody else, I'm setting myself up to have stuff unraveled. Anything that's created out of fear is setting something up that has to be dismantled later. Just understand that. And I've got a PhD in that one. Again, a self-proclaimed PhD, because I've created a lot of things out of fear. And the fear was I created was motivated by so many things of what I didn't want, rather than really getting intentional about what is it that I want, and then figuring out what I was really, really committed to. Right. So looking at, and your environment is going to give you the opportunity for you to find out what you really, really value. And sometimes we have to let it go. Sometimes we have to exceed beyond our environment, because everybody has their own model of the world, right? And I go into this in deep, 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 deep stuff in the potential code. By the way, if this interests you and you really want to figure out more about how this, by all means, join the potentialzonegroup.com. It's a free group. There's lots of amazing things going on there. And I'm also doing a masterclass at masteringpotential.com workshop. It's a workshop that I'm doing. You can find more out about that at masteringpotential.com, where I go into more about this, of how this looks when we come to these thresholds that we start experiencing uncomfortableness, right? Like that, we've all heard, get familiar with the unfamiliar, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Well, okay, they're both oxymorons. So what I like to say is get familiar with the uncomfortable, right? The more you understand that when you are in the uncomfortable is the space of growth, and being able to trust the process, the metamorphic process. I mean, I was telling this with somebody the other day. I was like, really think about what a caterpillar goes through in order to metamorphosize into a butterfly. Like how it sees life, its speed, its perspective, what it's able to witness, and then metamorphosizing, like letting go of that identity of becoming of being a caterpillar, and letting go of that identity and becoming a butterfly. And then all of a sudden, its speed increases exponentially. What it's able to perceive, I mean, it's not hung down anymore by, it's not limited anymore by not being able to fly, and now it's able to fly. Think about that metaphorically. Like, what is it that you're holding on to that keeps you attached to certain people in your life? And see, the other thing that keeps us really impacts our ability to expand when it comes to our environment is we don't want to hurt anybody. This is a big one. We don't want to hurt anybody. And sometimes our environment can push back really, really hard and call us names and call us selfish. And who do you think you are? And you said this and you committed to this. And this is what we agreed to and all that stuff. And I get it. This is all stuff that our environment's going to do. Again, you're going to have to really get clear about what is it that you want, that you're committed to, because the other part is we will sacrifice ourselves in order to not hurt somebody else's feelings. That's called codependency, right? And I get it. I get it. I've done it, right? And so you are the person you live every moment of your life with. You are the person you live every moment of your life with, right? So the more you can be authentic and congruent with who you truly are, the more powerful you're going to be, the more permission you're going to give other people to be, the more they're going to trust you, right? Because you're stepping in your agency, you're really owning the power of who you are and communicating it clearly and authentically, and out of that, people are going to trust you more, because you're going to be trusting yourself more, right? Because at the end of the day, who can we trust if we don't trust ourselves, right? So I'd really appreciate any comments, any questions, anything that you, my friend, that you are getting out of this, any value that you're getting, so that I can support you in the future. I appreciate you being here as always. By all means, check out the potentialzonegroup.com. Check out my podcast, The Potential Zone Show. Lots of great nuggets on there as well. And I appreciate your time. Appreciate you spending some time with me. It's good to always see everybody. Love you, each and every one of you. And as always, as I sign off every single time, live like your life depends on it, because it does. And you deserve the best, my friend. And you are an amazing, amazing human being. And you deserve to live a fruitful, abundant life in all areas. So until next time, my friend, much love. Take care.